Good morning. Oh, that looks weird. Okay, that's better now. So happy Tuesday, everybody. All right, let's get into operationalized luxury. So I want to just ask everyone from yesterday, a couple of people share what their aha takeaways were from our conversation. And the reason I say this is when one person thinks things, it could spark the same thought and same excitement to someone else. So from where you were yesterday to where you are today, some of you were here yesterday, some of you weren't, but what were your kind of aha takeaways? All right, don't be shy and run up all at once, please. Martha, thank you. You should have to unmute yourself.
Okay. So I think for me, so I feel like I have a good process, but I have a good process in my head. And sometimes I need to spend a little bit more time and effort in giving that information to clients before they need it. And a good example of that is telling them to transfer the utilities into their name a couple of weeks before closing. I know I'm going to tell them like 3 weeks before closing to do it, but sometimes they'll ask 4 weeks before closing. So I need to come up with a sheet that kind of has the whole timeline of everything and then just kind of remind them of things as we go along.
Perfect. So look, a huge opportunity for everyone. Mo, I have you next. So just to mute yourself, I'm just going to kind of piggyback on what she said. Look, one of the areas that I think everyone has improvement on is from the time we go to contract to close. Sorry, my kids have given me a cold. Is that from contract to close? Because look, at that point, like, you know, in events and with our team, I call it the 170-30 rule, and you could apply this to real estate as well. People think that once a contract is signed and they successfully bought the house, it's 100% of the thing. Really, it's only 70. And what you have to remember is that last 30% is what they remember the most. Right. So having that whole timeline and accounting for all of the little details. Think about how overwhelming moving is, and it sucks. Moving is probably one of the least desirable things that you could do in your life. I'll share a quick story with you. When I was in college, I was dating a girl and she was moving her stuff, and I was very naive in the sense of saying, oh, it's like a little dorm. You have half a dorm. Like, I'll help you pack this. And, you know, I stayed out the whole night partying. And the next day, I was like, holy Jesus. I was there all day packing these. It's half a dorm room with a twin bed. How much stuff could there possibly be? Boy, was I wrong. Right. And that was my first introduction to real estate and moving at a young age, thinking to myself, wow, what a terrible process this is. Right. So think about your clients who have apartments and houses and kids and pets, how challenging that is. All right, Mo.
Yeah, sure. After your talk, I went online and did some research about what the luxury means. It's a little bit more of, action points. So I wrote it down that the customer needs to feel special, pampered and respected. Pampered. You just mentioned it. I never pampered a client. I did a great job, find them the house with the best price, move them. I mean, everything there. But I never, that word came to me, pampered. So I had to find a way to pamper the client.
I love that. I'm going to steal that for the second class, because that, if everyone has an aha moment, I'm going to install the aha moment in you right now. Do your clients feel pampered? Think about how many of your children are pampered. For us, those have kids, right? It's amazing. You're a kid. Everyone does everything for you. You're always pampered. You're always taken care of. Imagine your clients for your children. One, you shouldn't talk to them like that, right? But you can treat them like that. Pampered is a really good word. One more. Let me share a couple of them in the chat. The true luxury experience anticipates your need organically. What happens before you even have to ask? Operationalized luxury puts the purpose and process behind the service and feeling needed to be generated. If a client, Miriam, spot on. If a client asks, you're too late. You failed. All right, one more person, then we're going to get into how to do this. I learned something from your comments, right? And everyone else should have, like, ask yourself this question. What do I need to do to make my clients feel pampered in the process? Think about this. If someone's moving, you should still be, and they're buying a house, you still should be checking in with them once a week. It's like, all right, here's what you need to do week 1. Here's what you need to do week 2. Here's when you should get movers. You plan on getting contractors. Like literally, you're going to say, once it goes into contract, you should come up with a list and say, all right, we had a plan and we had curated luxury in buying your home. Now we want to make sure that we do this in getting you to your home. So would it be okay if I just asked you a few questions so then I could remap out a new timeline and strategy that we can all work on week by week so that we could break this whole move into small parts that I can be your partner? Deborah, perfect. Joyce?
Oh, I think it's just anticipating the needs before the individual asks. And that takes a strategic plan. Like you said before, it has to be planned and purposeful and organized, and then you have to execute it. So it's just having this in place is something I'd like to work on more.
Perfect. Look, the big takeaway for me in all this is think about when you spend $1,000 in a hotel, what you expect, and think about how much you're getting paid and where's the gap in the experience. It's a big difference. Brad? Where'd Brad go? I lost him.
Yeah.
There
Hey,
you are.
good morning, Chirag.
Morning.
So it occurs to me that, I talked to this about this with our small group a few weeks ago, but your communication plan is something that I've been deploying that's really beneficial, to this end. I stayed at the St. Regis once in Putamita. It was, kind of a luxury experience, and they assigned us a custom concierge, who's there for all of your needs, and they're there to pamper you. And it was kind of the last thing I wanted in the way that they pampered us, right? I mean, the guy was like always checking in with us. He didn't ask me how much he wanted to, I wanted to be checked in with. He was constantly checking in with me. He was texting me all the time. I was on the beach. He was texting me. I fell asleep on the beach once. I woke up. He was right above me, looking down at me. Could I help you, Mr. Quay? I just wanted to be left alone. Anyways, the communication plan has been key in this way for me and just dealing with my clients. I did this yesterday with a new seller. She said, don't text me all the time. Well, if I hadn't asked that, I wouldn't know that. So I run the risk of constantly texting her in order to give her this kind of luxury experience. Anyways, just sharing that little piece.
You know what? Look, you have to meet people where they are. Look, it's intuitive to us, but they always say what makes somebody an expert is knowing one more thing than the other person. So let's get into this. Everyone take out a pen and a piece of paper or something to write with. Shout out to all my friends in the Boston Public Library. I see you guys. Look, if you're in a group like this, it is incredible of the opportunity you have to work with each other and this concept of collaborative learning. Right. So one of my big call to actions yesterday was find a friend and do it together. If you're in an office, agree if you ever meet the client, which is that small, same chance, just go broke, do it together. But what you'll get out of it will be far more than what you'll ever lose. Okay. So here's how operationalized luxury works. There's 2 parts to a transaction, actually 3 parts, right? Before, right? That's the whole buyer consultation. There's during, right? And then there's after, and then there's after. So we'll call it 4. But I think the part that I really want everyone to focus on in the beginning is what happens after the contract is signed. So let's start thinking about, all right, how do we start triggering our brains from being salespeople to being operational thinkers? The first thing is understanding how to go from 0 to 1. So going to 0 to 1 is literally sitting there with like a piece of paper and saying to myself, okay, based on my state, right? Because some have attorney states, some have escrow states, whatever it is. In escrow states, after the contract is signed, they do the inspection. We'll say once we're at the point where the inspections and everything are done, the next thing that comes, generally speaking, is an appraisal and all these other steps. So what we want to understand is, based on the average timelines of our clients, you can do this for 30 days, 60 days, and maybe 90 days. But I don't think very many people have 90-day closings. Do any of you still have 90-day closings? Some. So then Victoria's nodding her head. I see you. So I would map this out, and then I would do 30, 60, 90, right? 1, 2, 3. The next thing you're going to want to start figuring out is literally make a word bank and write this down. What is the journey of the customer? Journey of the customer. Where are they today? Where are they looking to go? And what are all the steps in the middle? All right, so who here has an actual detailed list of contract to close? And I'll show you how to go about doing this. Anybody? Nobody. Okay, so we all have lots of room for growth. Now think about it. Your buyer signs a contract. If we're sticking with Mo's thing, how does somebody feel pampered? Like, what happens next? Not congratulations, your thing is signed. Remember, all right, Leslie, unmute yourself. And then I'm going to walk you through this thing. Here's the big thing. They don't know all of the things that have to happen. And it depends how far you want to do this, right? Now, if I were a buyer, what would I find most valuable? I would love it if somebody sat down, had a meeting with me, went through a list of questionnaires, and then literally just built out a Google Calendar and shared it with me that had every date and milestone on it, and then checked in with me to make sure that each one was done. Does that sound like you're being pampered, Mo? Does anyone you know that exists in real estate today do this with their clients? Hit yes if you know somebody. So now, in a world where you're going to have to charge your buyers potentially for a commission, does this sound like something someone would want to pay for? Absolutely. But this is part of your entire package. All right. Leslie, unmute yourself.
Yes.
Good morning.
Hello.
We'll spotlight you when they find you. Hold on.
I don't have my camera on. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm getting there.
Don't have spotlight. All right. So the first thing is someone goes into contract with you, assume the inspections and everything done. What happens next?
So we go into contract if there's a home inspection contingency, we go into contract before the home inspection is done. So it's a little bit different, but so essentially the moment we have a ratified contract, I go in, and if there, I have my sort of standard list, if there are any contingencies, I count out the days, I come up with the actual dates, and then I send a copy of the ratified contract, and I send a copy of this. It's not on a calendar, but it is a calendar. It's in order by date and time, and a description of exactly what needs to be done. By 6 p.m. on this day, we need to have completed our inspection, and if, so on and so forth. And then I pester them about it.
Where does all this information live?
What do you mean?
Where does all of it live?
I mean, I have the sort of the framework of the document, but every contract's different, right? Some have inspections, some don't, some have appraisals, some don't, so on and so forth. So I have the template, and then I modify it based on the specific requirements of the deal and the actual timeline.
So here's what I want you to do going forward. The first step is we need to make a set of questions to walk somebody through this. So think about how someone's brain processes something, why, what, how. You're going to say, now the contract is signed. Essentially what we're going to do, I want to just walk you through a more curated experience that accounts for all the things that are going to come next. Now, I know you're probably feeling just overwhelmed because it's a lot. And the reason why we do this is just to break it down into simple things so that we can organize this for you and help you in the way that you want to be helped throughout the entire process, because we're here with you from today all the way up to the closing. Would that be okay? So there are a couple different parts to this, right? One is obviously critical dates. The second part is their actual moving process. So a lot of times we focus on critical dates, deadlines, inspection contingency, appraisal contingency, commitment letter dates. Those are like the big three, you'd say, like in a real estate deal, correct?
Sure.
Then what else do you need to account for?
Right. Things like dealing with the utilities. If you're moving in DC and you want to put up these emergency no parking signs, I have that all in there. Other than packing and, I try to cover everything that's going to come up.
So ready? Words like everything that's going to come up are not they're not clear, concise, and quantifiable. So here's what I want you to think about. If they're moving, right? Are you planning on doing any renovations? Do you need to meet with contractors? Is there anything in the house that you need to measure, right? Are there appliances? All of those different nitty-gritty things. I have so much information on my Google Drives, like through my real estate email, my next real estate email, and so on and so forth. I had this book that I used to use with clients. I'm going to try to dig it up now that we're talking about this. But essentially, if you created a book for every house that was like a fillable PDF that literally said like the boiler, the roof, the age, the flooring in each room, the amount of windows, the size, you do realize people will keep that book forever, literally forever, right? So, going in and having that kind of experience and providing that kind of experience is valuable, right? So start thinking about it. And literally the best way to do it is go back to your last like 10 deals that somebody bought a home. Like, what did this person ask for? What were they doing? What was important to them, right? There's obviously an internet date. There's a moving date. There's getting moving quotes. There's getting boxes. What are you doing yourself? When are you moving in? Are all these things lined up and scheduled, right? If you're buying furniture, you have to make sure about supply chain issues. Some of us in markets have stagers, right? So when I moved into a new house this past summer, I actually did not want to go buy furniture because guess what? Everything was delayed. So my realtor introduced me to a local stager, and literally for a fraction of the cost, I got nicer stuff. And they came and set the whole thing up. Do you know how many of us know stagers that would literally fully furnish someone's house? And they're constantly looking to turn over their furniture. But this is curated luxury, right?
Chirag,
Yes.
my raise your hand isn't working.
That's okay.
I've created a template of a timeline that I use for every client where I'm putting in all the parties, all the inspections. I'm even putting in how often I'm going to be contacting their lender to make sure everything's going on track. And I update it each week. But what I do is I send it to them as a PDF that they can click through to all the emails and phone numbers as an all-day event during the term of the contract. And they absolutely love it. No one calls me for phone numbers anymore.
Yep. So you
And-
mind sharing the template with the people in the group if you want? We'll
Sure.
share it. Put your branding on it so everyone knows, and you get a win with everyone. Look, it's
a Pages document, and what it has in it are placeholders. So all I have to do is go in and just click where it's red for the placeholders. It's really not that hard to do. I'm happy to, I'll send it over to you, Chirag. You can share it how you like.
perfect. So look, in the end of the day, right, there's local numbers, there's moving companies, there's renovations, there's all of these different things. And you literally need to make a checklist and a questionnaire, and then you go through it with the people. And then from there, I would put this all out onto a Google Calendar. It's about as organized as it could be. So now think about this. Remember, I always share with you, create the conversation you want someone to have when you're not there. The only conversation that I want you guys to have when I'm not here is that what we offer you is easy, it's simple, and that we really care that you actually use it and your life gets better. So the conversation I literally want any person that's ever experienced us in anything is to know that we actually care. That it's not, in my mind, I always say the biggest issue with coaching is people think it's a client makes an investment in exchange for information, and it's like this, bye. No, it's our job, and I tell my team this all the time, to make sure people use the stuff. All right, can I share something really cool with you that I probably shouldn't be sharing right now, but I'm going to do it anyway? Anyone hear something cool? We've figured out a way for next year for every single person in this program to have 365-day accountability, and that the only courses they'll be subscribed to in like these 90-day mini business plans and mini transformations are only the things that make sense to their business. Yeah, exactly. I see Myra, she's like, what? Believe me, if I showed you a room, we have like a gazillion different things that we've been sitting here obsessively trying to figure this out, because what we know is look, your business is as unique as you, right? So we also know that there's this concept of overconsumption of information and lack of implementation. So the goal is, how do we have every agent get a win every single week from the information we provide, and they stack it over a 12-week period. And at the end of the 12-week period, you check back in, you go through another assessment, then we give you your next 12 weeks or next 90 days. So it's just literally 90 days, 90 days, 90 days, 90 days. But as this, you're just going to keep growing. And if you need something, there'll be, you'll have a navigator that you can text, and they'll message you back. There'll be an actual human being that lives in the United States that actually was a previous Compass employee. We've not outsourced this to another country. Not saying that's good, bad, and different, but like, this is what people need, right? So how can you reimagine your client experience to make it that specific to them? And that's the value of a calendar, right? So now think about this. You're going to have an amazing buyer consultation. You're going to tailor your pitch to what they want. You're going to give them exactly what they want. You're going to be more professional in the way that you set up your tours, provide showing feedback, the recap emails, the way you document everything. And then again, when they get into contract, it's going to be re-curated. Do you know how amazing I would, if somebody sat with me today and did a buyer consultation, walked me through the whole thing, and can I share with you that what we do with our clients from the time they go into contract to closing, so that the entire experience is curated luxury? We know that everyone moving has different goals and needs, from whether it's timing, renovations, a seamless move, integrating their kids into school activities. Think about how your clients live and condense that information into one place. It's pretty simple, right? Look, a lot of this is organizing what we already do in a way that's it's clear, concise, and quantifiable to another person. That's what this is all about. Simplicity. No one can find a value in something they're paying for if they don't know what you're doing. All right, we have a few minutes left. Questions, comments, concerns. Who here feels inspired that they could go do something different? Hit yes in the chat. I'll see if I did a good job today. We'll go with the survey. I don't know, man. I'm not feeling really good about my abilities today. I need more yeses. Look, this is a call to action. If you've ever seen Braveheart, this is the time to go. And this is simple stuff. It's just being organized. You're not coming up with anything revolutionary. Look, I'll give you an example. What is it called? The iPod, right? When Steve Jobs came out with the iPod, they had MP3 players that did the same thing for years. Do you know what he said? This is about the size of the original iPod. He took the thing and he goes, you want to know what this is? He goes, 1,000 songs in your pocket. And he just put it in his pocket. People are like, yep, I got it. Just like that. Apple sells simplicity. Look, the reality is I have an iPhone. I think the majority of people have iPhones. You know what the fact is? An Android is a better phone. It has a better camera. It can do a whole bunch of different stuff, but it's complicated. It's not simple like an iPhone. Like if you've ever seen a camera on an Android, it smokes what they have on the iPhone. But I would never buy an Android phone. I was just talking about this last night. I look at people who have Androids and PCs. I'm like, oh my God, why? In my mind, I'm like, oh, they must like things to be complicated. Right? So think about that. When somebody thinks of you, you want them to be like, if I hire Jesse, I hire Bill, I hire Miriam, I hire Anna, like it's done. They'll have every single thing. Like and literally people get excited. Everyone wants to feel they chose the best. Everyone has the best realtor. Have you ever noticed that? My friend's the best. My friend's the best, right? But if you get an Apple computer, please do yourself a favor. So here's the thing. They will show this calendar to other people because you know how many people complain about their realtor? I got to do this. I'm overwhelmed about this. Your business in working with a buyer cannot be like an episode of 24 where it's operating in real time. I just started the Apple, non-Apple conversation. God, low emotional intelligence for Chirag today. So look, the point of this all is the simpler you can make things, the more likely people are to use them and share them with other people. So if you did a testimonial, the testimonial would say, I worked with Mayari and it was amazing. She was buttoned up in every detail of the transaction down to customizing my move in a calendar that laid the whole entire thing out so it's simple. Do you realize that everything in your head is governed and controlled by emotion? Everything that's on paper is written by logic. People are like, I have so much stuff to do. And I always say to people, no, you don't. No, you really don't. Let me take out what's in your head. It's probably 90 minutes to 2 hours worth of work. But in your head, it feels like this. I'm insulted. Carol, we're not insulting anybody. But this is what brand brainwashing does, right? I'm like brainwashed by the Apple brand. But we want people to be brainwashed by your brand. And I love you for buying the iPad. So you are taking good steps. But this is what you want people to think. And for the record, for all the Apple, Android, everyone else, I admitted that the other camera is better and the phone actually is better. So fact is a fact, but the computers, I'll go with Apple all day. That's my preference. But whatever works for you, right? So think about this. Curated luxury is anticipating your client's need and having it organically happen before they ever have to ask for it. FYI, pampered means someone to excessive care or service. It comes from the Old English Dutch pampering, meaning overfed. Oh, Carol, we're going to connect offline on this. This will be a fun. If you're coming to retreat, this is a conversation I want to have in person. So, look, I think there's so much opportunity in this space because people don't think about this like hospitality, like pampering. And you know what the best part is? I do a pretty good job because we talk to so many agents, seeing what everyone else is talking about so that we don't overlap, that we can integrate. There's no one in the world talking about this like this. Have you noticed that? Everyone's talking about, hey, how do you get someone just to sign a buyer contract and pay you money? That's not what this is about. This is about people. This is about how much you care and having people understand. As my mentor, Rory Gollett, says, caring is a competitive advantage. But people can't know how much you care if they don't understand what you do. So let's curate luxury. Let's start building these things together and use the power of collaborative learning. Don't do this by yourself. Sure, if it's an older client, you could print it out and you could give it to them. Literally, you could put those paper calendars and write them all in, like, hey, I made this for you to put on your fridge. Do you know how much they'll like that? Because these people hate technology and like using a paper calendar. So if you see somebody write, so you can say, hey, we're going to write this. I would get a branded calendar with your name on it, right? And I would just put all the dates in there. Your client should have a checklist that mirrors a calendar. Just check this off, and this is what's coming next. And if you ever have a question on what's coming next, please let me know. We want to be your partner. Shawanda, what a cute kid. I could find every kid on Zoom, I swear. All right, everyone, I'm a couple minutes over. With love in my heart, I love you all. I hope everyone has a powerful day. Remember, commit to actions, not outcomes. Let's curate luxury and just start in small steps. Bye, everybody. Wayne, good to see you, my man. Bye, everybody.